It was a time when Israel had fallen into deep darkness. Once again, the people broke their covenant with God, and judgment came upon them. The Lord allowed them to fall into the hands of the Philistines, fierce warriors from the sea who carried a deadly advantage, the knowledge of iron. While Israel still fought with bronze weapons, the Philistines forged sharper, harder swords, making them nearly unstoppable. For 40 years, they plundered Israel's land, enslaved its people, and mocked the children of Abraham. Yet God had not abandoned his people. In a small village of the tribe of Dan, he was preparing an answer in the most unlikely way, through a barren woman's womb. From her weakness would come a man whose strength would shake nations. That man was Samson. This is the story of Israel's most powerful judge, who killed a lion with his bare hands, defeated 1,000 men with a donkey's jawbone, and brought down a temple with nothing but his might. But it is also the story of his greatest weakness. Samson's true battle was not only against the Philistines. It was against himself, against his pride, and against the desires that led to his downfall. In the hills of Dan lived Manoah and his wife. They were simple people, but carried a heavy sorrow. They had no children. In those days, barrenness was seen as a curse, a life without meaning. Their sorrow mirrored Israel itself, a chosen nation, yet fruitless and oppressed. One day, while the woman was alone, a dazzling light surrounded her. An angel of the Lord appeared and said, "Though you are barren, you will conceive and give birth to a son. But be careful, drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean. The boy will be a Nazirite from birth, set apart for God, and he will begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines." She ran to tell her husband. Astonished, Manoah prayed for the messenger to return so they would know exactly what to do. God answered. The angel came again and repeated the command. Their child must live under the Nazirite vow. This vow required total dedication to God, never drinking wine, never touching what was unclean, and never cutting his hair. With trembling reverence, Manoah prepared an offering to the Lord. As the flames rose to heaven, the angel ascended in the fire and disappeared. Manoah fell to the ground, terrified, but his wife reassured him. If God intended to kill us, he would not have accepted our offering or spoken these promises. And so, from a barren womb, the promised child was born. His very name was a prophecy, Samson, meaning little son. In Israel's night of oppression, he would be the ray of dawn. From childhood, Samson was different. God's spirit stirred in him, giving him supernatural strength. As he grew, his body became powerful, but inside him a struggle raged. Part of him wanted to follow God's call, but another part longed to live like everyone else. That conflict would shape his destiny. When Samson came of age, all of Israel knew of his unmatched strength and his impulsiveness. One day in Timnah, he saw a Philistine woman and demanded she be his wife. His parents protested, warning him that marrying their oppressors was dangerous. But Samson insisted. What seemed like stubborn foolishness was, in truth, part of God's plan. On the road to Timnah, Samson wandered into a vineyard, a place forbidden for a Nazirite. Suddenly, a young lion leapt at him. He was unarmed, but the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and with his bare hands he tore the lion apart. Later, when he returned, he found bees had made honey in the lion's carcass. He ate it and even gave some to his parents without telling them where it came from. But in doing so, he touched something unclean, breaking part of his vow. Samson was already testing the limits of his calling. At his wedding feast, surrounded by 30 Philistines, Samson posed a riddle. Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. The prize was 30 garments. When his guests couldn't solve it, they threatened his bride, forcing her to coax the answer from him. On the 7th day, she broke him down, and Samson revealed the secret. The Philistines answered, and Samson, humiliated, stormed out in fury. He killed 30 men in Ashkelon, stripped them of their clothes, and gave the garments to pay his debt. Later, when he returned to his bride, her father told him she had been given to another man. Samson's anger ignited, and he captured 300 foxes, tied torches to their tails and released them into Philistine fields. The land went up in flames, vineyards, grain, and olive groves all destroyed. The Philistines retaliated, burning his wife and her father alive. Heartbroken and enraged, Samson swore vengeance and slaughtered them mercilessly. But his own people, afraid of Philistine retaliation, betrayed him. 3,000 men of Judah bound Samson and handed him over. Yet when the Philistines surrounded him, the Spirit of God came upon him again. He snapped the ropes and seized the jawbone of a donkey. With it, he struck down 1,000 men. Exhausted, he cried to God, who opened a spring of water for him. For 20 years, Samson judged Israel. The Philistines feared him, but his weakness remained, his desire for women. In Gaza, he slept with a prostitute, and the Philistines thought they had trapped him. But at midnight, Samson tore the massive city gates from their posts and carried them to Hebron, mocking their power. Then came Delilah. She wasn't a warrior, but her beauty and cunning proved deadlier than any sword. The Philistine rulers bribed her to uncover his secret. Again and again she asked, and again he deceived her. But at last, worn down by her persistence, Samson revealed the truth. His strength was tied to his Nazirite vow, symbolized by his hair. As he slept, his locks were cut, and his strength vanished. The Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and chained him in Gaza, forcing him to grind grain like a slave. Israel's mightiest man was reduced to nothing. But in his prison cell, Samson found what he had lost, faith. His hair began to grow again, a sign that God's covenant could be restored. At a great festival in honor of Dagon, the Philistines brought him out to mock him. The temple was packed with rulers and 3,000 spectators. Blind and broken, Samson prayed one last prayer. Lord, remember me. Strengthen me once more, that I may avenge my eyes. He braced himself against the two central pillars and cried, Let me die with the Philistines. With all his might, he pushed. The pillars cracked. The temple collapsed. The rulers, the soldiers, the crowd, all were buried in the rubble. Samson died that day, but in his death, he destroyed more enemies than in his entire life. His family carried his body back to his homeland and buried him in his father's tomb. Samson's life became a warning etched in Israel's memory. No matter how great a person's gifts, without faithfulness to God, those very gifts can lead to destruction. When Samson lost his eyes, he finally saw. True strength had never been in his hair, but in his faith in the Lord. And in his final act, broken yet surrendered, he accomplished what he had been born to do. Samson's story still speaks today, that even in weakness, when we surrender to God, he can turn defeat into victory.